back from the dead.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're all invited to go fucking mental on this.
One more shot and see what happens. Hopefully this doesn't freeze this time. I don't know. Sometimes I just think the universe is like, you're not doing that today, boo. You know? Like, you're not going to stream today. Like, your spirit guides have other plans for you today, okay? No. So, whoa, hopefully we're good. I'm sure everybody will let us know. I can't, like, the stream is kind of frozen on my side. I can't see how many viewers are in. Like, I have no idea what's going on. I'm like, should we go back to restream? I don't know. Why do you pay for these programs and they don't work? It's just crazy.
Especially when one little thing throws it off.
Right. Especially one little thing throws it off. And microphone-wise, doing audio check, you're a little far from the mic. So if you could just talk, talk a little closer to the mic, you know. All right. Well, that was exhausting. Jesus. Woo! All right.
Eventually we'll get this right. Eventually this will be perfect.
It will, you know, one thing at a time. So, Law Llorona, I'm going to let you kind of, were you into Law Llorona? I'm going to have you just chat for a sec to make sure your audio sounds okay on that side, and then Kat can let us know. Have you ever investigated anywhere where there's a screaming banshee?
Unfortunately, I have not had that chance to, as far as I know. I've read plenty of legends and stories of screaming, like the wailing woman, essentially, like the legend of the wailing woman, not necessarily La Llorona herself, but variations, and it is similar where it's either nearby a bridge or a body of water, it seems, that she's often heard.
Yeah, it's one of those legends where I think this is more on the Mexican side, Hispanic side of culture, where she drowned her children, and she's screaming because she drowned her children and can't find either the bodies or the souls of her children. And there's essentially like a story behind it where God or like the being won't allow her back in until she like brings her children with her for the torment that she sort of put them through by drowning them. I investigated this little teeny hole in the wall location back in, like, I think it was like 2015, 2013, somewhere in there. And it was called Antonito, Colorado. It's literally like the very southernmost point of Colorado. You have to, like, the next like largest city is called Alamosa, and it's like literally 2 hours outside of Alamosa. So it's out in the middle of nowhere, Colorado. And it's really haunted. There's only like 800 people for like capacity of like who lives there, but really there's only like 200 people alive still, you know, so like that's not even like that census isn't accurate, you know.
So it's like practically a ghost town.
It is, and it's the kind of ghost town that you really don't want to get like find yourself in, because since it's so far out in the middle of nowhere, they kind of like are their own government, you know what I mean, like that kind of place.
I got you.
And there's
Very
like
wild.
criminal things and like drug lords and that, you know, like that kind of thing going on there, and like the police are in on it, you know what I mean, like the police are sketch too, and like they're a part of the drug ring, so it's a very strange city. And
what is this second story you told me of investigation, like, and it is this town in the middle of nowhere. Like, you don't want to be walking at night, but we gotta go check out these ghosts. It's so dangerous here, but we gotta go check out.
It's weird because like all those small towns are different. Because I've been to the Bross Hotel, so the Bross Hotel was a different small town feeling. That was the one where they had like the weird satanic cult like doing satanic stuff at like 4 a.m. It was really strange. We like my entire crew woke up at like 3-4 a.m. to satanic chanting going on, and it was rhythmic, and it was definitely like Latin or like a different language, you know. And so that was even weirder. That was different. And like we went and filmed B-roll in the town where Bross is. Where is Bross? Paonia, Colorado. It's also like in the middle of nowhere. And when you're in the middle of Paonia, Colorado, they do not like outsiders. I mean, Antonito didn't like outsiders either. But, like, you walk in wearing all black, like, the witchy vibe, like, gothic vibe, and they're like, ooh, they're from, like, the modern world. It, like, literally feels like you stepped through a portal. You know what I mean? Have you ever been somewhere like that, Eilfie? Like, you've got to know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, I've been to, like, I don't think I've quite gotten to that level, but I've been to places where it's, like, small towns, middle of nowhere, countrysides, where it's one of those, like, everyone knows everyone, so they will know you're from out of town, and if you look remotely fringe or like dress slightly out there, you will stick out like a sore thumb, and most likely than not, they're like, yeah, no, you're not from around here.
Right, and then they're like, where are you from? And like, yeah, when we went and filmed in Paonia, this is a good topic to tie into this, because honestly, like, all that weird like local lore goes with all of this. But when we were in Paonia, that one is kind of like, I mean, if you know, like, anywhere in Colorado, it's sort of like near Aspen, but it's like, it's off to the side of Aspen. Like, Aspen's the closest, which is the total opposite, right? Because Aspen's like money and celebrities and like, you know, like big $1 million houses. And then you have Paonia that's like culty, you know, like there's cults there. And like really creepy stuff, but like it's more farming. And then you have Antonito, where it's more of like a drug run town. And the thing with Antonito that was strange was, so we get there and the innkeeper of this location was like, just make sure like you bring all of your film equipment in, don't leave anything valuable in the car, because there's a chance that your car will get broken into overnight.
Oh geez, it sounds almost like you turn around and suddenly your car's on cinder blocks.
And I was like, oh, that's great. Like, I feel really safe. She's like, well, one of two things will happen. Either they'll break in your car, or they'll be too scared to do it because they know, like, you're from the outside and, like, they don't want you reporting what goes on here. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And luckily, nobody messed with the vehicle, thank God. But, yeah, it was really strange. And so we talked with the innkeeper, who the location was like very haunted. It's that was called the River's Inn, and it was like really old mansion, beautiful, haunted, like lots of deaths surrounding the whole area, a lot of mysterious deaths in the area. But in that same pilot that's online, the innkeeper was like, you need to go talk to the woman that runs the train station. So I ran down there and did an interview with her really quick, which is on that pilot, and she's like, oh, yeah, no, ghosts aren't the only thing we have here. We have Bigfoot. We have hellhounds. We have a UFO watchtower that was put here by the U.S. military. Oh, and if you go down the road just a little ways to the waterway, that's where the La Llorona lives. And I was like,
cool.
What else do you have here? Like, you have literally everything in one place. You know what I mean? So it does make you wonder if those locations have, like, portals.
Well, it sounds almost like, too, it's like you're in a place that, like, civilization is not really encroaching on nature, so you have all the crypto stuff, you have all the strange folklore stuff, and it's just like, since not a lot of people, I guess, there mess around, and then you just have weird stuff that kind of, like, zooms in on it, too, because you have the mountains and everything where, like, the UFO things happen, so it's like, oh, cool. And by the way, La Llorona is down the river here, too.
I know. Well, and I said, wait a second, to back up. The military installed a UFO tower. Like, literally, you know what I mean? And she was like, oh, yeah, the military installed the UFO tower. And we get, like, mutilated cattle here all the time. And she was so, like, casual. And I was like, that's not normal.
Wait, did she say if it was still an active tower or
Oh
is it
yeah.
just
Oh, it's active. Yeah. Like she's like, "Oh, we spot UFOs here all the time and like there's cattle mutilations." And I'm just like, "Should I be staying here with my crew? Like should I be here right now?
typical weekend?
We're going to either get abducted or get taken by an alien. Maybe La Llorona is going to drown us in the river. Like there's all these things." So, yeah, I mean, actually, I think that a lot of these lore that we talk about, which is like the screaming banshee thing, I think it exists more than we know because we had done research obviously on River's End before we went to Antonito, and none of the research before we arrived talked about La Llorona. So it's interesting. Like I think it's more prominent than people know. And she's like, "Oh yeah." I was like, "Well, how do you know it's a screaming banshee? You know, like how do you know it's what they say it is. It's she drowned her children." And she's like, "Oh, well, you know, us locals will go down to the river all the time and you'll just hear her start screaming at you. And like there's nobody there, but we've caught it on camera. They showed me a couple clips that they'd caught and it was like that blood-curdling high-pitched like scream." And
Like
I was like,
not like an animal freaking out or anything.
well, I mean, and there's nothing around, but it was like plains, you know what I mean? Not mountains. It was like flat plains. So you'd be able to see anything that's there. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, if it's that loud, it sounds like it should be like pretty close, but you're not seeing anything.
Well, and supposedly she had said that, you know, and it was obviously an older story of like the 1800s that somebody went down to explore it and they drowned. And they said that this person was alone, and so ever since then, don't go alone to the river don't antagonize La Llorona or she'll drown you.
That's probably good note to have.
It's probably a good idea to follow. You know what I mean?
Respect.
So this goes in. Like, which side of it do you like, the Mexican lore side or the Irish side better?
Well, what I found interesting was with like, I'm more familiar with the Irish lore of the Banshee, and also just how it, like, even reading over the notes and everything, how it has changed and evolved, and it like this image of something that is looked at as kind of a spirit or fae, and it kind of flips back and forth and has kind of evolved over time depending on going from oral lore to like written lore and everything.
Mm-hmm. Which is interesting because I'm more familiar with the Mexican side or the Hispanic side, and that's because growing up in Colorado, they say, you know, we're above like New Mexico, and New Mexico, I've been there many times to investigate as well, and they all feel like it's very connected from like the Hispanic side, like la brujeria type of thing, like what cat practices, which is also really, really interesting. So it's kind of cool to see this side. Yeah, I didn't realize that the fairy side was connected to it, which I love fairy lore. I respect fairy lore. Do you believe in like that lower level stuff? And when I say lower level, fairies are considered lower level, but they're not considered demonic. So let's get that straight. They're just considered like a lower level vibration of like where our like parallel universe is planed. So like, do you think those things exist? Like, what would be considered fairies is the actual fairies, trolls, gnomes, you know, anything of that. Have you ever experienced any of that while you were investigating?
Well, not while I was investigating, but I have tried to work with like the local, like the um, land spirits or local fae of the area and everything, like kind of giving offerings and whatnot. And this is what I find interesting is oftentimes it feels like some stores kind of took spirits, deities, anything unusual and outside of the mainstream of that time and kind of lumped it into fae, because they're like, this thinking is supernatural, so it must be a fae. And it seems like later on, as folklorists and researchers have tried to kind of pick it away and try to find the actual, like, is this actually a fae, or is this a land spirit, or actually an old god? Because a lot of times, especially with the Irish folklore, a lot of these might have been ancient deities of the land that just either would become demonized or reduced to just a fairy or a spirit, because they couldn't entirely get rid of it because of how ingrained it was in the area.
So I respect it. I've had friends that really are into like the fae thing, and they like it's about. I mean, I guess if you're like incorporating like witchcraft or spell work with it, it would be very much connected to like green witch work, or like being an earth witch type of thing. And you can give thanks to them or summon them in for protection for your house. But the problem is that you have to give them offerings. So there's ways of doing that. You can plant flowers, take care of the flowers. You can Kat, can you take care of that person on the mod and get rid of them? You can offer them coins. You can put coins in the ground. You can do you can give offerings to all of these different kind of things. And I always get scared because I get busy with my schedule, and they say that sort of if you don't like give the offerings to the fae after you've summoned them in or brought them in, that's when they can get mad or they become tricksters and like turn on you. You've heard that kind of lore, right, Eilfie?
Yeah, one of the things like I've done before for myself is usually um, one of the things you can do is like if you have a backyard, you can leave a area of it for just kind of like go wild, like wildflower stuff. Like basically, not not interfere with that part of nature. You, like you said, you can plant flowers and such, and basically the idea of caring for the earth and showing respect for it. Now, there's hundreds of different kinds of fae, and what I normally do is I'll offer the normal like milk and honey and bread and such, and do this more on like a holiday seasonal basis,
Mm-hmm.
to show respect and everything. And one of the things that sometimes some lords talk about is you want to give offerings, but you don't necessarily want to say this is a gift or something like that. But it's like you give out food, but you don't tell them that, hey, I'm giving you food or something like that. And then what I find interesting is a lot of times in the stories, you have people who weren't even like practitioners or anything like that, but they knew about the brownies and they knew about the fae that worked around, and they worked with them unless somehow they insulted them, which is entirely possible because their idea of etiquette is sometimes different than ours and can sometimes easily like insult them, but it's like takes it quite a bit. And it's
That why does
usually,
that scare me though? Why does that scare me?
I think it's because we hear so many stories of the idea of like the fae like taking people away, and honestly, half the time it's usually more like trickster, almost poltergeist activity, and you just like you put something out to hopefully appease them, and then they stop, and or they just go away because they're like, well, we don't want to be around you, and just leave unless you do the bad thing where some stories have talked about people destroying fairy mounds and stuff, which is just you really want to peeve them off, do that.
Right. So I have experienced fae before
Hmm.
at the Stanley Hotel.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so the Stanley Hotel sits on top of tons of like bedrock, and that includes like quartz. So, I mean, as if it's not just bad enough haunted as it is, now you have a plethora of electromagnetic fields sitting underneath it, just waiting to become a magnet for anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's different buildings. Obviously, you have like the main Stanley Hotel, you have the concert hall, you have the manor house. There's the presidential suite. Like there's tons of different locations, obviously, like on the property. So it's interesting because it's all on the bedrock of like quartz. In fact, if you go, there's private tunnels. They used to give tours through the private tunnels, which is where the staff locates. Like if you're going to lunch, like let's say you're off work from being a housekeeper, you have to go underground through the private tunnels. And when they used to give tours, I don't know if they do anymore, you can go walk through those tunnels and you actually can see the quartz. Like you can see, it's like, literally, it's not a joke. Like it exists. But, unfortunately, in all of the locations, sometimes you're going to get the wrong people involved that are coming to stay at the Stanley Hotel. And then they're going to start summoning things in. They're going to practice Wicca, black magic, fae magic. So people started coming in and summoning things in the Stanley Hotel because it's so powerful. So you have like the typical atypical energies that are already there. You have energies that I think just come in via passing. There's probably portals, but now you have people that have summoned things in. So there was this one time I was investigating at the concert hall of the Stanley Hotel, and I've talked about it before. But my friend Callie at the time was the paranormal investigator. What did they call her? Residential paranormal investigator. She actually got paid to just like be the Can you imagine? What a job. Yeah, like what a job. So she was always doing events, and obviously I had my time with Paranormal Challenge, and I went up to see her constantly because she had just, free access to the whole hotel all the time. And we were investigating the concert hall one night, and a troll manifested. And of course it's dark, so it's already dark, but now you're seeing the outline of this thing, and it really kind of messes with your brain. Because in a way, we have been trained to not believe in that stuff. Like, we've been taught that that's like fairy tales and like children's books. You know what I mean? So when you see like a 3D image that has just, and like short, I guess, like you have gnomes and trolls. Those are very different. Trolls are like, really realistically sort of like, you remember the treasure trolls that they had, like the spiky hair and... So, but it was about 4 feet tall, I would say. So it was shorter, but it was like the stocky troll, and you could tell. I mean, it was a troll, and it didn't look angry. It didn't really have any emotion. It was just sort of there. But like I remember, it was an energy, since you're so not used to like being around. Typically you're going to investigate and interact with other human energies, which is familiar for us. And I just remember being around that energy, and I literally, like, all of us did. We threw ourselves against the wall so hard. Yeah. Because we didn't want we didn't want anything between us and the wall. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't want any space. And it's strange, because when you finally experience it, you're just kind of like, wow, like, this stuff does exist. Like, this is legit.
Like, honestly, that would be honestly fascinating, and it kind of makes sense with the Stanley, because it's right by the mountains, and you have the caves and the stone earthy stuff. I can see the possibility of a troll or troll-like being hanging out there, and it does sound like it was just chilling and doing what.
Well, every building's different, and I wonder why. I wonder if it's because people have summoned things in each building. But like on the same subject of Fae, there's the presidential suite too. And the presidential suite has a leprechaun. And I know it, you laugh because, like, once again, you have been trained not to believe this stuff. You know what I mean?
My brain goes to, like, horror movie leprechaun, but I've also read about, like, the actual folklore of the leprechaun and everything. So it's one of those, either one doesn't sound like something you really want to encounter necessarily either.
It was kind of a mesh of both. Like, I don't think those energies, when they're here, I don't think they necessarily like want to kill you. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it was the horror movie kind, but they're definitely tricksters. I was there at an event with Ghost Adventures, and it was Aaron, Billy, and Dave Schrader staying in the presidential suite, and I had been there for an after party. And Billy and I had a few drinks, I'm not gonna lie, and we kept seeing it. Like, we were like, are we drunk? Like, literally, like, have I had, like, I've only had a couple of drinks, like, what's wrong with me, you know? And, like, we thought we were making it up, and then all of a sudden you would see it run, and it was little, I would say like a foot or less, and it was slamming doors throughout the presidential suite. It was just, it wanted to mess with everybody, you know what I mean? And Billy was like, dude, I don't even know how I'm going to sleep here tonight. Like, oh my God. Like, so it is weird. Go ahead.
Yeah, those things actually, those encounters fascinate me more because of the idea of, like, not just you read the folklore, but then you encounter something that, because everyone talks about, like, negative energies or strange energies, but then when you literally see something that does not register as a person, like, it's obviously not a person, it's something else. Your brain kind of like tries to rationalize, like, what am I looking at? But you're like, nope, that is definitely not usual.
Well, and especially like, because the Stanley for me, like, I had been there so many times, you know what I mean? So it was just like home. It was like a second home, comfortable for me. I had investigated so many times, but it's weird because, like, when you do finally experience those things, it just changes your perspective on things. You're like, anything could exist. Like, I've seen some crazy stuff, and anything could literally exist. And I wish, I'm not the kind of, like, I don't know how you feel. I'd love to hear your take on this. I like to be skeptical too. Like, I don't take everyone's word for it. You know what I mean? Like, I want to experience it. Like, I know you have your evidence, but I want to experience it myself. Like, I want to see what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But with that being said, I'm not the kind of investigator that is, like, pushes people to, like, don't be a skeptic. Like, I don't really care if people are skeptics. Because if they would have experienced the things I've experienced, they wouldn't be a skeptic. You know what I mean? Like, what's your take on it? I know you are on the more skeptical side of things.
Yeah, I'm definitely more in the skeptical side of things, just because I think it's, for me, it's like I need to also like experience it personally to really believe it. And I've definitely had my strange experiences that even to this day sometimes I look at it and like try to reanalyze, did I actually experience something or not? And there's been some that I'm like, no, that was just strange. I don't know what it was, but it was just... And I think it's partially for me that I feel like I need to be slightly skeptical just to ask questions, because I always say I believe in the possibility of everything, but it doesn't mean I will believe everything someone tells me they've experienced. I will like hear them, but if they want, do they want my personal thoughts, or do they want to just tell me their experience?
Mm-hmm. Another thing too, though, I like to personally interpret things on my own.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you feel about that. I like to, for example, you and I make fun of it all the time. We're talking crap about, I love Zach and his show. Obviously, he's successful. You know what I mean? But, it's not always demons. Like, but that's his gig. That's his show. That's his series. He presents things on the dark side. He has to show the side of paranormal that's the dark side. Like, that's what he's supposed to do. Like, that's his job. But Eilfie and I will be on the phone talking and chatting, and we're like, but it's not a demon, Like, I want to be there and experience it myself. And, like, really 9 times out of 10, you're more than likely just to run into a regular dead person that literally doesn't know they're dead.
Yeah. You're more likely to run into a grumpy dead person, or honestly just a collection of energy that didn't get cleared out, than a demon. And it's like, yeah, that's his shtick, but it's not demons. It's not all demons.
No, it's true. Well, and like, what's your like opinion on like the likelihood of like running into demonic activity?
I think it's much. I mean, I think it's much lower than people. I unfortunately, and I think there's a difference between people. There's a difference between running into something you're not sure what it is, because if you have experience with something pinching you or pushing you or scratching you, suddenly people are like, oh my god, it's a demon. And we have to think like, maybe that's something just trying to communicate with you, and that's the only way they know how, because there's only so much energy they can exert. Not everything acting out means it's demonic.
I agree, like 4,000%.
But because we think, oh my god, it did something to me, it must be a demon. It's like, no, it's not a demon. It's not.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. And that's the narrative that we want to change, because it's not always dark. But like, I will tell you this. I've been doing interviews all week to bring on a new crew. Like we've been doing interviews, Kat and I, all week, and it's a nightmare. I'm just to be honest. Like, it's so not fun. And, like one of the questions I always ask people is, can you be alone in an asylum by yourself? Because, it's part of the job description as a ghost hunter, I don't even have to ask Eilfie that. Like, I know she's fine, Yeah, like she's like excited, Yeah, well, and me too. Like, if we're in a big location, we have to split up. There's nothing we can do about it. We have to get footage. You know what I mean? But these people are like, oh no, I've watched Ghost Adventures, and I think it's mean what Zach does to Aaron, and he makes him go in alone, and I'm scared if I go into asylum, I'm gonna run into a demon. And I'm like, that's what the media's done to people. That is what Hollywood's done to people, is they are training investigators that, like Eilfie said, if you get scratched or hurt, is it demonic? I'd say like 80 to 90% it's not demonic, is my opinion.
I mean, it's more shocking to me when someone has a actual physical interaction with something than anything else, because like I feel like that probably takes a great exertion of energy for anything to poke you, scratch you, bite you. I mean, and it's like I don't think that's no.
And that's Jack said if a person was a butthole in life, they could be a butthole in death. 100%. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and once again, if you're in their house and like they think they've been owning that house, they're stuck in a time warp of when they died, like in the 1960s.
Mm-hmm.
Like why they're thinking, why are you in my space? Why the hell are you here? Like, and then you get ghost hunters that are like demanding answers. And then the ghost is like, you're in my house demanding answers from me? What would you do if it was your house? I would scratch the shit out of somebody too. I'd be like, who the hell do you think you are in my house telling me what I should be doing? And I just don't think people realize that's like the real side of it. That's the real side of it.
Oh yeah. I think half the time we're encountering these grumpy people who are like, what are you doing here and why you asked me for the 10,000th time how I died?
Yeah, you're right. The repetitive answers rather than including them in the conversation. But another side is too, and I want to get your opinion on this. When you run into demonic energy, do you know it's demonic? You do. Like that energy is, you cannot forget that energy. Even if they're trying to come through as like something friendly, I can tell when it's bad.
When you encounter something like, I think it's more of a rare thing, but when you encounter something that legit has not good intentions for someone, you're the little the red flag in the back of your head goes off of like something's not right here. Like there's a difference I think between not sure what's going on or being hesitant and the automatic need to want to run and set off.
No, I agree. I completely agree with that. So it's just, and then you have the La Llorona, which I think people, and why hasn't it been investigated more? Do you think people are afraid of it?
I think it's well, I mean, there's so many places that claim that have the La Llorona spirit, like almost like it sounds like almost like every creek had its own little version of La Llorona. So I don't know if it's just more difficult to pinpoint it. Um, I could see the hesitancy just because there's so many versions of how she interacts with people. Like sometimes it's just hearing her wails and her cries and everything. Other times people claim they see her actually walking along the river creek and everything. And some stories seem to evolve her into like almost like a boogeyman. Like unfortunately now pop culture has turned more into a boogeyman of be careful, she might steal your children if you anger her and counter her, which the earlier stories don't seem to be like that.
Well, she's also been kind of interpreted now into like a witch where she can like harm you with black magic. And that wasn't how it really was in the beginning. And I'm like, so it just makes you wonder if it's the society creating lore of fear around it. And it makes you wonder if you just went down there to communicate with her like a normal person and be like, I'm so sorry that you've passed, and like do the communication rather than just get scared of the screams. Would you be helping that energy rather than just leaving it and running away from it like everyone else?
Yeah, and honestly, listening to the stories, like I feel so sad for her because you have the stories of her either she drowns her children out of anger because her husband has decided to marry someone else, or something happens and her children are killed by her hands, and the next moment she realizes what happens, and she either walks around wasting away or she kills herself. And it just sounds so sad of this no-win situation that it's like, oh my god, how can we help you?
Well, in verbatim, it's exactly. How can we help you? This is sad. Like, I mean, I believe in curses, but I also don't believe something can hurt you unless it's harmed you first. That's very much like a Wiccan way of thinking, a witchcraft way of thinking. But literally verbatim, Kat found this. It says, she killed herself on her way to heaven. God stopped her and said he would not let her in until she found her children because she drowned them in the river. Her children, however, were already in heaven, so she was sentenced to search for them indefinitely for eternity as punishment for her cruel actions.
Yeah.
It's sad.
That is sad. I think that is more of a reworking of the original story that, and it's maybe this interpretation because society think looks at that a mother should be nurturing and giving everything to their children. So the idea of a mother, for whatever reason, taking their life is, society looks at that it should be eternal punishment. When
Right.
it's like we should look at why it happened, which is oftentimes because someone angered her, her husband betrayed her, her lover betrayed her. Betrayal starts it all.
So that's an interesting interpretation, and I agree with that. So you're saying, essentially, God sends her back, says you can't come cross over to heaven, but now she's like down here screaming, crying, looking for her children. They're not here, obviously, and then now society has also shunned her, and now she's left there without any help, without anyone to communicate with her, just because they're in fear of the screams and now in fear of the lore. And I love lore. I love all lore because I really believe I had a past life with Atlantis. I'm very connected with Atlantis and even Lemuria and all the crystals that are associated with it and whatnot. But I do wonder if you put a woman's touch on like an investigation of La Llorona, how that could change people's outer interpretations of it.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than like us going, and once again, it's because the paranormal industry has been so lopsided with 95% men. You haven't had a female's empathetic touch on these stories. So far, the only side we have seen, God love him, is Zach's masculine, I'm a tough guy with greasy hair and biceps, and I'm going to take a demon down with my shoulder. I'm going to do a shoulder check. You know what I mean? So you haven't had the feminist touch of like, oh my God, let me help you. Like, how can I help you? Like, and I'm not saying we cross people over. That's a whole nother gig we don't do, and I don't ever claim to do that. But like, how can we listen to your story? And it's sort of like when we did the pilot. In the pilot, we talk about this, and I thought we were going to end up connecting with Native American spirits, and we ended up connecting with miners that had died.
Mm-hmm.
And Kat and I are in bed. Like the location we were staying at was very small, so Kat and I shared a bedroom, and you could hear the bed shaking like every 15 minutes, and we were taking turns sleeping for like 30-minute intervals. And it like the energy, the only way I can describe is it felt like there was like 30 people came in the room to see what we were about. And then one of us would recite the St. Michael prayer while the other one slept. And then it felt like the energies were gone. So it was almost like they were waiting for us to like help them see the light or their spirit guides or whatever, because all we were doing was trying to sleep. You know what I mean? Like, I just wanted to get some sleep.
I'm really proud.
And so, but once again, that's putting that feminism touch of like rather being in fear. Oh my God, this is so sad. How can I help you?
Yeah. Oh, it's trying to have a better understanding, because like the stories talk about how, I don't know, she gets villainized almost,
Mm-hmm.
and because of the what she does to the children and everything, but they almost forget like why it happened. And it's not to justify the reasons for the actions, but to empathize with her and understand where she was coming from with it. And I know a lot of it is a cautionary tale of not to.
Well, it's true. What if she had a miscarriage? What if, I'm just saying, what if she had a stillbirth? What if it wasn't even a drowning and like the interpretation's been twisted? What if she had postpartum depression and killed herself? Like literally, like you have to dig this apart on a human level, not on a fear level, and assume she's just a demon.
Well, yeah, I mean, even talks about sort of where she does the act, and then like moments later, she like almost comes out of whatever moment of anger, and she realizes, what have I done?
Mm-hmm.
And tries to save them, or tries to pull them out of the water and to light and everything. And she just like is immediately regretful of what happened.
Mm-hmm. Well, and mental health. Who knows what kind of mental health state she was in? What if it was a mental health crisis? I mean, it
Well,
kind
it
of
was.
it ties into the female asylums of like, not all women went there just because they had mental issues. Like we talked about last week, you could literally have your period and complain about period pain, and you were stuck in the asylum. You could fart wrong around your husband, and he throws you in the asylum. You know what I mean? Like, it's so messed up. Isn't it
Yeah,
messed up?
well, there was a long list of these hysteric things. Look at them now. It's like, wait, these were like considered legit reasons. And now most of these are looked at as these are outpatient or manageable um, illnesses that people can work through. In fact, back then they're like, oh my goodness, we don't know what to do with you. We don't want to deal with it. We're just going to put you over here.
Oh, you're LGBTQ? We have to put you through a lobotomy first. What? That's a little extreme. Jesus, take the wheel. My God. That's a little extreme here. You know, like, it's just insane to me. It's just insane. And that's what I love about us being able to step in as females and change the narrative, because it's wrong. It's been wrong.
Well, it's trying to rehumanize the stories because what I enjoy with folklore and these legends is that a lot of it is an evolution of oral tales, and you have various cultures attaching their stories onto it, but there's always some sort of kernel of truth. There's it started somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
There was some origin of it, and it's trying to dig in, trying to find where that origin was and why it started, and then grew from there.
Mm-hmm. I agree. It's getting, you're right, rehumanizing it 100%. And even, especially with the women, since it's Women Month, and I'm really proud of all the streams we've done this month, it's also just, you know, taking your power back as a female, because I really do feel like, including La Llorona, you know, for a long time, why are these locations so haunted? Because women were treated like property. They weren't treated like humans. We were not humanized. And why? Makes no sense. You know, it's just, it's crazy. And people were literally tortured because of it. And that could even include La Llorona. I mean, what if it was, like I said, mental health, a miscarriage, something like that? So it's kind of reinterpreting these stories and these folklore into something that seems like it could be a very realistic situation, rather than slapping it with a tag that says demon on it.
I do like in the chat, they mention offering her dolls or carvings of children as something to help her connect empathy with kids.
Mm-hmm.
Return her kids basically through kind of like a image of a child to her.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
That would help.
Well, it is. It's like, you're respecting the energy, and like, I personally don't think energies have been respected. Mm-hmm. I've talked about that, and not just women's locations, in all locations. I think, you know, unfortunately, I think there's a rat race with so many paranormal shows out there. I think it's become extremely saturated with male investigators, and really the only result they're seeking is the best evidence. And the only way they think they can get the best evidence is by provoking or doing something to piss the energy off, or like I talked about, taking a noose to a plantation. And it's just not, it's like you're dehumanizing the energies, and it's like, I don't know. I have so much empathy for all beings, like all creatures. Like, my Native American side is like, I respect literally plants. You know what I mean? Like, I give respect to everything we walk on with my Native side. And it's crazy to me that I think we need to reel it back in here.
Well, I think the problem is with a lot of these shows is, I understand with investigations, a lot of times you could be sitting around for hours with very little activity happening. And if you put a camera on that could get boring real fast. So there has to be some sort of visual showing of the story and of the investigation. And it unfortunately sometimes seems to be like it's very overblown or sensationalized. So it's trying to find a new way to show that empathy visually to still keep the audience attention while still respectfully telling the story of the location of the spirit. And I think that's the trick there with it.
Right. I agree 100%. And it's kind of letting the location and the energy speak for themselves. Like, let them tell the stories.
Oh yeah, like the the actual stories, the reality is stranger than fiction at the time. Like if you dig into the history, you'll find some strange stuff. You don't need to make up anything or overblown it. You just read verbatim and it's strange.
Well, I agree, and like the one locations that make me the most upset is some of the groups that have gone to asylums for veterans, and I just think it hasn't been done right. It hasn't been done well, and it's not fair to sort of make a mockery out of these veterans that have served our country, and try to say there's a demon in here, like abusing all the other veterans. We got to find the demon and pull it out of here. It's just, and like, how did y'all get a show before me? How did y'all get signed before I did? Jesus, it's just, it's crazy that, like, what they allow, and I guess that's just the Hollywood side of it. But you're right, you go to these locations and there's already energy and EMFs and you're connecting. You don't need to fake it. You don't need to make it dramatic. You don't need to disrespect the land energy or the entities because they're already there ready to communicate. It's almost like, but you're not listening. You're making your own narrative and you're not listening,
Yeah, I don't think it's not even a matter of like, I don't mind like when I see some of them when they do reenactments, like when they're telling the story and you see the reenactment, though sometimes they do get a little cheesy with the reenactments, they go a little overboard with it. So I don't know if it's just the idea that it has to be big and flashy in face. It's like it doesn't have to be like that to still be entertaining while still also being informative. And I think that's where the balance needs to be reset almost.
Well, I also think that just, with my experience with Chanel and Kat, like being on set, like it just does make you wonder if women have a little bit more of sensitivity of being in tune with the other side. Because we did capture some good evidence. Like we got some good stuff while we were there. And so I'm excited for the future. I'm very excited for the future.
I think some of it is also probably patience because it takes time. I think with investigation, it does take time unless you have a place that's really just popping right from the get-go. You have to have patience and let it come to you almost. And maybe that doesn't happen enough. Like you go in and you investigate for a few hours and it's like, why isn't something happening like right now? It's like, that's not how it works. You have to give it time.
I agree.
And maybe we have a little more patience.
Right, I agree. Except when we were at our last location, man, it just like we weren't ready and it was unfolding and we were like, get the cameras, oh my god, like we're not ready.
That's a rare right there. That's a rare moment.
Oh man, I mean, I don't know, I've had some pretty good investigations. Maybe it's locations that I pick, but yeah, I mean, I think people's houses are a little bit different when you're doing like a personal location. Because the energies are really attached to the people, and then like for safety purposes, obviously you ask the family to like leave for the evening or whatever. I always feel really guilty doing personal locations because I'm always like, do you want me to sage afterwards? Because like investigating can be kind of dangerous in your own house. So I feel a very big sense of responsibility when it's like a personal location like that rather than like a big location where they're just sort of used to it. But then even on the flip side, you look at somewhere like, what's it called? Lizzie Borden, and I think it's just been killed and overdone.
Oh, there's too many people going through there.
Well, I think they're disrespecting the energies, and I think, there was a psychic that accused the dad of molesting her or whatever, and that wasn't something that they captured on evidence. It was all through the psychic, and like I'm not saying the psychic's discredited, but I just think that you shouldn't be accusing an energy unless they're here to represent themselves of something like that. Like, that's some serious... She's like, oh, like, I'm a psychic. Like, I just was in tune to it. But it seemed like after that, all the energy in the Lizzie Borden house went really dark. Like, they got really angry and everything got really dark. And it could be one of two reasons. Either because they didn't want people to know that there was some sort of a molestation thing happening, or because they're upset that they were being accused of such a heinous act. But once again, they're not here to represent themselves. So I feel like you need to listen to the story of what the energies have to say.
I think with that, there's a difference to me when psychics can present like what their opinions of this is what I'm picking up, this is what I'm getting. But if they're presenting like this happened and there is no evidence to it, there's no records of this happening or any stories or anything, but they're presented this way, unfortunately, I think it paints people's minds of what they now expect. So when you have psychic come and go, this is what happened, and there's no evidence to it. Now some people think, oh, this must have been happening for things, but there's nothing other than the psychics.
Exactly. How do we back this up? Literally, there's nothing in the books about it. And I don't agree with that either. I don't agree with accusing an energy of something like that, any sort of heinous act, unless the energy is the one that came through and said it through a spirit box or an EVP, you know?
Well, I mean, like, unless the psychic said, I think this might have happened, and then later on they found, like, evidence going, yep, according to these records or this journal or something, there's possibility that there is truth to this, then there's something there. But if it's just simply one person's opinion of, I'm picking this up, that's like, we'll put it aside, but don't use that as absolute evidence.
Well, it's dangerous, I think, for the energies involved. Because I think, like, with Lizzie Borden, what happened was everybody went in and started doing seances, Ouija board sessions, accusing the father and the stepmom of rape or whatever. And then all of a sudden, all this dark stuff started happening in the Borden house. And now they're selling it again, which tells you they're struggling with what they did to the energies. Mm-hmm. And it's just, I don't know, I just think, like, I know they're dead, man. If you're running a B&B or a location where you're making off with money from these energies, respect the damn energies. You know what I mean? Like, they were human once too. And I'm really disappointed to see across the board that hasn't been the case. And that includes Bobby Mackey's. Like, I really think Wanda got sick from, Zach said, did you make a deal with the devil? Because she was allowing satanic groups to come in and do worship and do evocation and all that, summoning. And she ended up getting sick with this really terrible cancer, and she couldn't get rid of it, and she passed away. And then before that, you had Carl, the former innkeeper, who also died at Bobby Mackey's from, like, weird health, mysterious causes. So once again, like, there's dark stuff here, but let's not make it darker. Like, I remember Wanda, like, because I knew her personally, she said, Bobby Mackey's feels like there are energies in here that are going to war with other energies. So the gangster energies are at war with the demons, and then there's the prostitutes. And then there's the energies that are part of the slaughterhouse, and they're all at war with each other because they've been summoned into this location. And it's just, that is the money worth it? Like charging $800 a night to let a ghost hunting group come in and just do whatever they want with the place? And then you do pay the price, and now Wanda's gone, and it's sad.
Yeah, and the problem I see with that is it's one of those where I don't mind if someone calls something up as long as you know how to clean it up and put it away. And I feel like that sounds more like events where people come in and they call up things, bring in things, but they don't necessarily know how to close the door or clean it up, or basically clean up after their own mess. And that's, I think, when you're leaving all that residue and crap around, that's when, like you said, the energies mix and it just gets nastier because you didn't clean up after yourself. You have a whole bunch of people coming in doing that and not being respectful or doing it properly.
Well, properly is the word for it. Doing a seance is one thing, but I would never allow my crew to go into a location and summon in demonic activity,
And there's some places I've seen that do not allow the use of Ouija boards, and even though it's like you can argue that with like EVPs, with voice recorders and just spirit communication generally, you can argue the two things, but I can understand why some places just put a no to Ouija boards. It's may not so much be the device itself, it's just the trouble that comes in with that, because too often than not, people who want to like bring out the Ouija board, they might not necessarily know how to open and close it properly, and they just don't want to clean up after that.
I agree. But that can happen with all devices. I'm not afraid of Ouija boards. I think that fear is ridiculous, and I've talked about that before too. But you're right. You have people that have done things the wrong way and incorrectly. Because once again, no matter what you're doing, communicating with the dead, it's necromancy. And I don't think people realize that either.
Well, I think when you're doing investigation, no matter what device, whether it's a old-fashioned drying mirror or a top of the line electronic device, I think you should go in there, open like you're like opening like, hey, we're communicating, and then when you're done with the investigation, close down, say thank you, and properly close it like you would do with any communication, and that would probably lessen people's fear of attachments or things wandering, because you're making it very clear, we're done now, we're going home now.
I agree 100% with that statement. And it's hard to find people that are on the same page when it's investigating, and that's why it's so detrimental when you do go in a group of people to investigate, that you go with people that you know and that you trust, because it can be unsafe. And that's why I quit Pilgrim, was because there was an unsafe situation being presented, and I believe in the other side. I believe in curses. I believe bad things can happen, and I wasn't willing to put myself in harm's way. And so I agree 100%, Eilfie, 100%. I can't believe we made it through the stream after all the crazy technology things that we had going on. Like, wow, we made it. Eilfie, thank you so much for being here. Next week we have Kat. I don't even know what topic. I think I need to get on. I need to get on social media management. I'm having some issues. I've been busy this week. I haven't even hardly been home. I have more work to do. But thank you, Eilfie, so much for being here. I hope you have a lovely, lovely weekend, and we'll be chatting soon. And I'm going to let Eilfie go. Bye, Eilfie. We'll see you later. So, yeah, Eilfie, yeah, sorry about the connection issues earlier. That was strange. I still don't really know how that happened. But anyway, everything's been really great. We're just working a lot, prepping for, another pilot, sort of working with finding another person, seeing how that's going to go. And it's just been a lot of work. I know that I disappeared from social media this week, and you guys know when I'm gone from social media, something's going on behind the scenes. You know what I'm saying? I'm actually going to be going to the Haunted Museum tomorrow. I have some friends in town who are producers from Los Angeles who have not been to the Haunted Museum, so I'm actually going tomorrow. So that should be fun. I'll let you guys know about all of the new exhibits. Maybe Kat and I will sneak in a stream to just sort of chat and catch up on like Sunday or Monday, and I'll talk about new exhibits at the museum. And yeah, other than that, work, you know what I mean? I hope you guys had a lovely week. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Please make sure you give our video a thumbs up. Please subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Make sure you're always following us for social media updates on social media. And that's all I got. I'll let you guys know how the museum is tomorrow. We'll see you later, guys. Bye.
Back from the dead.